6 months ago, something happened to Peter Parker. Now he has to live with the consequences of what he did. His debts have racked up, and he has lost many of his friends, including MJ. He even betrayed the trust of his Aunt May. Spider-Man doesn't take a break just because his personal life is a mess. He busted a weapons trade between gang lords, the Rose and Tombstone, and got into it with each boss's respective lieutenants, Digger and White Rabbit. As revenge for letting the deal go south, Rose blew up Tombstone's mansion. Somebody knocks on Spider-Man's door and he thinks that it's debt collectors. He yells, "I'll pay you when..." He stops. It's Norman. "Peter, sounds like things are going about normal," says Norman. Spidey is about to tell Norman to go away, but Norman is already in his apartment. Norman says that he came by to check up on how Spidey is doing. He asks Spidey if he can turn his potential into currency, but Spidey says, "It's a starter until I get back on my feet." "I have a job for you," says Norman, but Spidey asks him what makes him think that he will accept. However, Spidey feels as if he owes Norman and asks what the job is. Spidey looks at Norman with anger in his eyes. 2:30 this afternoon. My people will be in touch with an address. Don't be late," says Norman as he pinches Spidey's cheek. At 2:30 p.m., Spidey waits for Norman to arrive, and he is with his two kids, Stanley and Normie. "What exactly is going on?" asks Spidey. Norman explains that his wife needs some time to herself this afternoon, and he is busy in the office, so he needs a babysitter. Spider-Man tries to stop Norman from leaving, but he says that his wife will pick the kids up at 5. Meanwhile, in Harlem, Janice meets her dad, Tombstone. "Are you okay? What happened to the mansion?" asks Janice. Tombstone tells his daughter that everything is fine. He just needs to take care of some business. "It's the Rose, right? What do you want me to do?" asks Janice while thinking of ways to support her dad. But he explains to her that things are gonna get ugly and he wants Janice to see her boyfriend and take a vacation. "Let me handle this," says Tombstone while reassuring his daughter. "What did you just say to me? You think I'm a kid?" says Janice angrily. She tells her father that she's staying out of war because her Tombstone is afraid that she is going to get hurt. Tombstone explains to Janice that he is not worried about her getting hurt, but worried about what she will see. "You are the reason I bought that mansion. I wanted to be a calmer man. I wanted to be your dad," says Tombstone. He expresses sorrow as now he has to protect what's his, and the only way he knows how to do that is ugly. He doesn't want his daughter to stick around and see what he is doing. Since the man who is going to handle this is not her dad, Janice puts on her mask and takes her leave. "I can't believe this," he says. $2,000 a tooth," he thinks as he takes out some pliers to crack his teeth. Spider-Man takes his leave after being done babysitting. He's on the phone with Norman and tells him that his children did great. He shares what they did while he was with them and hangs up the phone since it's time for Peter Parker to clock out and Spider-Man to clock in. Spidey quickly changes into a Spidey suit and thinks that Tombstone has made a huge mistake when he declares he is coming after him. But Spidey has been dealing with bad people all his life, so this doesn't faze him. He will deal with him head on without hesitation. "So look alive, Tombstone." Spider-Man rushes off to save the day and realizes one of the kids put the pudding in his mask. In Harlem, at the docks, White Rabbit tells Kareem to hurry up. "Boss wants to move this stuff before the buyer gets skittish. We're going to war and we need the cash," says White Bunny. Kareem gets that part, but doesn't get the part where he has to do all the work. White Rabbit tells Kareem the reason. It's because she woke up dressed up like a rabbit and took her time. That's why. Must be nice wearing those silly costumes instead of loading them into trucks," says Kareem as he loads the trucks. "It's not as fun as it looks, Kareem," says Spider-Man as he crashes into the building. "Okay, sometimes it is," he finishes his sentence while making a dramatic entrance. White Rabbit tells Kareem to light Spidey up, and at that moment, Spider-Man realizes that his Spidey senses aren't tingling. Kareem doesn't want to shoot Spidey since he saved his life before. After telling Kareem that he is useless, White Rabbit turns towards Spidey and says, "How did you find us?" Spidey tells her that it was the powers of deduction when, in fact, he put a spider tracer on their SUV. After telling Spidey that he smells like pudding, he asks where Tombstone is. White Rabbit tells Spidey she doesn't want to find Tombstone. Tombstone is scary. Got it. But all that matters to me is that I have you two handled, says Spidey as he holds on to White Rabbit's arm to stop her from leaving. How so? Asks White Rabbit. Spidey explains that he has leverage. No one wants to spend a night in jail, so he proposes to make a deal with White Rabbit. You tell me where Tombstone is, I go after him and leave you two, and if he takes me down, you go free, says Spidey. He further explains that if he takes down Tombstone, he is coming after the duo, but at least they will have a head start. I usually don't make deals like this, but I want to get this done with today, he adds. After a bit of thinking, White Rabbit tells Tombstone's address to Spidey. As he is about to leave, Spidey traps the duo with his webs. Son of a... We had a deal, yells White Rabbit. After Spidey leaves, Kareem asks White Rabbit if she isn't worried about selling out Tombstone like that. She says she isn't. At the Upper East Side, Crime Master is asked how his meeting went. He replies that it was profitable. See, that's the thing about war. Somebody has to supply the guns, and with luck, Crime Master and his lackeys can take money from both sides. That's not the kind of luck you're having today, pal, says Tombstone as he steps inside Crime Master's office. Crime Master shudders in fear and asks, What can I do for you? Tombstone heard that Crime Master had a meeting with the Rose. Crime Master replies, Yes, I told everyone, I'm staying neutral in this. He adds that he will be more than happy to deal with Tombstone as well. Tombstone says that this doesn't work for him. He's sending a message and everyone's got to pick a side. He wants Crime Master to acknowledge that the Rose has a seat at the table. This is me coming for you, says Tombstone and tells Crime Master to call his men. This has got to be loud, says Tombstone as he smirks. Meanwhile, Spider-Man makes his way to the Upper East Side and realizes he hasn't been here in a while. Mostly because he's not in the market for tacky art or overpriced bagels. Also, Spidey has no money. Spidey finally finds Tombstone and launches onto him. What's so funny? Asks Spidey. You wanted to teach me a lesson? Here I am, says Spidey as he attacks Tombstone. After calling Spidey a Boy Scout, Tombstone tries to punch him, but Spidey evades. You said I was your project. Is this what you wanted? Asks Spidey as he chokes Tombstone. Are you happy now? He yells. Tombstone expresses his happiness as the gates of the truck they were fighting in start closing in. Do you feel it? How bad he just messed up? Asks Tombstone. Let's not forget I'm down here, says Crime Master as he lays on the floor of the truck tied up. Spidey doesn't want to go down without a fight, but one blow from Tombstone takes the wind out of him and there's no more talking. Spidey tries to crush Tombstone's head, but Tombstone grabs onto Spidey so tight that his ribs start crackling. Tombstone smiles. Meanwhile, the truck with the goods gets transported. It's fine, MJ. I'm just gonna talk to him, says Paul. Do I seem like a violent guy? Okay, but he deserved that. I promise. We're just gonna talk, says Paul to MJ on the phone. After he reaches his destination, he tells MJ that he loves her and cuts the call. Who are you looking for? Asks a man from Paul. Peter Parker, he responds. Me too, says the mysterious man. The mysterious man is a debt collector. He has come to get money from Peter, while Paul has come to confront him since he has been making some phone calls that Paul doesn't appreciate. The debt collector says that Spidey owes a ton of money because of his hospital bill. How much for you to leave him alone for a couple of weeks? Asks Paul. $1,500, responds the debt collector, and Paul sends the money to him. Paul just doesn't like seeing someone get kicked while they're down. Spider-Man sits chained by his hands and feet. Tombstone tugs on Spidey's mask and says that he doesn't care about who he is. This next part, this is just so by the end of this, I can say we're even, says Tombstone as he starts punching Spidey continuously. After beating him up, Spidey tries to get free from the chains, but he can't. Chains aren't gonna give, and no one's gonna hear you. We are in an abandoned subway tunnel under my Harlem house, says Tombstone. Spidey asks Tombstone why he is doing this, and he gives a chilling response. This is me teaching you a lesson. Tombstone asks Spidey why he came to Harlem and busted up his deal with the Rose. He asks Spidey what it had to do with him, and Spidey responds that it's simple, he's just a good guy trying to stop the bad guys. Huh, Bad guys, says Tombstone as he holds Spidey by his shirt. Tombstone tells to put it upstairs with the crew. Spidey is confused by the roses. We're not talking about that yet. I want to talk about lions, says Tombstone. Yeah, lions make perfect sense, responds Spidey. In upstate New York, Janice has a date with her boyfriend, Randy. He tries to call his dad, but he doesn't pick up. Randy expresses that he wants to have more vacations like this with Janice in the future. Randy Robertson, do you want to marry me? Asks Janice with intent in her eyes. As he is confused about how to reply, Janice says that she wants to marry Randy, and Randy agrees. After getting beaten a ton, Spidey's arms are falling asleep, so he tries to ask Tombstone to stop hitting him. Suddenly, Tombstone's lackey informs him that the F train is going above the tunnel that Tombstone is in. But Tombstone grabs onto his lackey since the F train doesn't come to Harlem. You're gonna blame that on a sore tooth? Asks Spidey with his bloodied mask. Meanwhile, across town, Mr. Robertson asks his driver if there will be service at their destination, since he hadn't had anything since he got into the car. Nah, Mr. Robertson, no service in this area, says the driver. Mr. Robertson is confused since he has been driving for 30 minutes. The driver says that he has to pick another passenger up. Suddenly, the door of the car swings open and it's White Rabbit. Scooch over a bit, would you? The boss wants to see you and we're already late. People think filing my teeth was a strange choice. It wasn't a choice at all, says Tombstone. He grew up hungry, never enough to eat. He learned early on that no matter what this world had to offer, there wasn't enough left for him. It didn't matter how much he asked, so he stopped asking and talking at all. He never made it to school with his lunch tickets and stopped asking for help, and nobody offered at school or at home. But when Tombstone stopped talking, he could hear the world trying to teach him its language. And if Tombstone was going to make his way, he was going to have to speak it. And if the people bullying Tombstone wanted him to talk, he would talk. Some men bully Tombstone and twist his arm to cause him pain so that they can hear his groans. Tombstone would make them get close enough to hear him, in the language he chose to speak. Tombstone filed his teeth so they could be sharp and chomped onto the bully's ear. His bullies never bullied him again, and Tombstone kept the whisper. By high school, Tombstone was eating well since he was eating off everyone, and his appetite grew, but it was always about the same thing, seeing that he had enough. Doing whatever it took to keep it, and fighting the good guys who would never understand that there isn't any sin a man can commit in the process of feeding himself. We are ready, boss, says one of the lackeys. What's all this? The Roses men? Asks Spidey. My men dressed up like the Roses goons are gonna go on a little rampage. Shoot up 125th Street, says Tombstone. He adds that as far as anyone knows, the Rose will have ordered a massacre and one of Spidey's friends will see the carnage and take care of Richie Fisk. Tombstone, this is crazy. You don't want to do this. Civilians, they have nothing to do with this, yells Spidey. Neither did you, but here you are, says Tombstone. Spidey tries to stop Tombstone, but he can't. As Tombstone is about to leave, he tells Spidey that he is going to find Mr. Robertson and tell him what happens to his kid when he tries to take Janice. Kill him, says Tombstone as he leaves. Don't do this, Lonnie, stop! I've learned my lesson, yells Spidey. Bet you have, but it's too late to save the day, says Tombstone as he climbs up the ladder to leave while Spidey keeps yelling at him to stop. MJ talks to her daughter and is trying to make her fall asleep when suddenly she says, "There's a lady at the window." MJ tells her daughter Romy that there's no one there and tells her to get ready for bed. But when MJ looks back, she finds an old friend, Felicia, at the window, who says hi. It's good to see you, but, bedtime, says MJ. Felicia apologizes and says, Sorry, have you seen Peter? I'm trying to get a hold of him. She adds that Peter is nowhere to be found. MJ says that she hasn't heard from him in a while and asks if everything is okay. Felicia is confused, but tells MJ not to worry and heads her way. Romy asks her mom who this mysterious woman is, and MJ explains that she is a friend from a very long time ago. Spidey tries to free himself from the chain since his spider sense isn't working. Tombstone's lackey's gun is pointing at Spidey, threatening his life. Spidey is considering to wait till his Spidey sense goes crazy, but it doesn't work. As the lackey is about to pull the trigger, Kareem barges in. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold up," he yells. "Change of plans. Boss wants us to peel off," says Kareem. The man doesn't want to listen and tries to kill Spidey, but in an instant, Kareem points a gun at them and quickly opens Spidey's chains. He informs him that the massacre hasn't started yet, since Tombstone is about to kill Mr. Robertson now. In Harlem, Robertson is met by Tombstone, who is angry at the fact that his daughter is dating Robbie. Spidey crashes through a door and knows that he doesn't have much time. He has to go fast to save Mr. Robertson. Spidey calls Randy and tells him that his father has been taken by Tombstone and he is in Harlem. Spidey decides to distract the goons and trusts Randy to save his father in time. After his web fluid finishes, Spidey uses physical combat and keeps going, even though he is very injured and tired. Randy has finally arrived and runs to his father's aid. Spidey runs into a room and sees a man dressed up as the Rose, but after beating him up, he realizes that this is Richard Fisk. He realizes that he is at the Rose and not Harlem. Randy finds his dad and sees him enjoying a cup of coffee with Tombstone. That is the moment when Spidey realizes that Tombstone tricked him. Janice asks her father about the war, and he tells her that he has decided that there are things in his life that he isn't ready to give up, so he will leave it to the proper authorities. Tombstone continues to laugh while Spider-Man suffers. So this was the Amazing Spider-Man from 2022. If you enjoyed swinging through this comic realm with us, don't forget to subscribe for future animated adventures. And if you have favorite comics you want to see next in our videos, do let us know which ones down in the comments. Catch you next time. Peace!